What's up, guys, and welcome back to the revival of Top 10 Tuesday. You may not see just me here in the future doing videos, but up first is going to be my top 10 D&D 5e cantrips. This covers all cantrips from Player's Handbook, the few from the Sword Coast Adventures Guide, and then the Elemental Evil / Xanathar's Guide to Everything cantrips. Again, these may not all be D&D things related going forward, but this first slew are going to be. So hope you enjoy it, and stay tuned. Number 10 is Chill Touch. Chill Touch is rated as number 10 on this list mostly because I hate the name Chill Touch. The fact that it does not do cold damage and it is not a touch attack is what really bugs me about it. But I do think it is a useful spell, and since I can only have 10 here on the list, I decided to put this on there. One, it's a nice ranged attack. It does a d8, so that's pretty standard damage as far as most cantrips go. It has a range of 120 feet, again. It's necrotic damage, which is fairly unresisted in terms of monsters and most humanoid creatures. And it has the benefit that creatures can't regain hit points until the start of your next turn. So, and I didn't actually realize this until I just reread it, that little, like, the spectral undead hand that touches them clings to the target as a visual reminder that they cannot heal as long as that's going on. So one, that's also super cool for flavor. And if you hit an undead target with it, it has disadvantage on your attack rolls against you until the end of your next turn. Here's the thing. If you hit an undead target, it doesn't say you have to deal damage to an undead target. Maybe I'm reading too much into this for a cantrip, but hey, that's pretty good. It's got a lot of stuff for something so simple. Oh, and last little fun bit of trivia. In the original playtest, it was a melee attack. Like a melee spell attack, not a ranged attack. Anyway. Number 9 is Mending. I don't really think I need to do too much explanation. The reason that it's so high on the list is because it is a 1-minute casting time. Something I feel in my personal games and in a lot of games I've played in, people overlook that Mending does have a 1-minute casting time. But you can repair a single break or tear in an object, broken chain. One of my personal favorite things to do is to break into a place by destroying the lock, and then mend the lock once you're inside so that people don't see that anything's wrong. Or, you know, break out of manacles, take the manacles off, and then mend the manacles, and now you have your own set of free manacles. As long as there is no break or tear larger than 1 foot in any dimension, you mend it, leaving no trace of the former damage. And it can repair magic items or constructs, but it doesn't restore any magical capabilities to it. Again, it's a cantrip, so it's just great all around. Number 8 is Prestidigitation. Prestidigitation goes, and has been for many editions, just the kind of catch-all magic trick of most magic users. It lets you do all manner of cool things, but some of the more popular reasons to use it is to light or put out a candle, a fire, or something like that, so you never have to worry about your flint and steel breaking or your tinderbox being wet. Clean or soil an object no larger than 1 cubic foot. This is something a lot of people do when they scavenge armor off of an enemy. They use it so that their characters, if they're in a situation where they cannot bathe or they have an aversion to water. But I feel like nobody ever uses the soil aspect of it. This is a good way to ruin somebody at a fancy party, to make your character, who is very fancy looking, look very dirty, so that you can try to blend into a crowd and things of that nature. Chill, warm, or flavor food. Again, 1 cubic foot of non-living material. Let me rephrase that. So, but basically, you want hot cocoa or hot tea. You want iced tea. You want your food to have extra flavor. You're eating bland trail rations, but you want it to taste like a steak dinner. You could do that. Changing color or marking things, that's a cool thing to do, especially because it only lasts for an hour. I haven't really used that too much in my games. Creating a non-magical trinket or illusory image that you can fit in your hand that lasts until the end of your next turn. That is, again, not as powerful as Minor Illusion, but it says a non-magical trinket or illusory image. So it could be... It sounds like it has physical presence, at least till the end of your turn. So this could be a good kind of switcheroo moment, like, oh, yep, look, we've got the key, and then it's gone. Or, you know, just your general magic tricks of sparks, wind, musical notes, whatever. Odd odor could have a lot of benefits depending on how you want to use that to your advantage. And it's one of the few kind of these utility cantrips that has a range. The range is only 10 feet, but it is non-concentration for any of its longer-lasting effects, and you can have up to 3 of them at a time. Number 7 is Create Bonfire, and I realize that that's probably an odd choice, is it doesn't get a lot of love. So Create Bonfire was an elemental evil spell. I think it made its way again in Xanathar's Guide to Everything. It is a range spell, range of 60 feet. It is a concentration spell because it lasts for up to a minute, but it basically does similar damage, if not the exact same damage, as something like a Produce Flame spell. So it makes a fire, rather than like a Produce Flame, which creates a fireball that you throw, that you make a ranged spell attack. This creates an actual bonfire in a place, and the thing that you're casting it under has to make a dexterity saving throw. Granted, it is a saving throw, it is dex, so a lot of things can avoid it, but it's D8 fire damage. But you can cast it under somebody to deal damage to them immediately, but it also persists for up to a minute, and anything that steps into or moves through that fire takes a D8 fire damage if they fail to save. And again, this does level up and increase the damage over time, just like every other cantrip. So the part of the other reason I like this is, one, it makes a full campfire that you could then use to light other things, but it's also a good choke point thing. You run through a door, you drop a cantrip behind you, and you made a little fire there. So, you know, it's not like a ton of damage, but people have to run through it. And, you know, if you're running from commoners or guards and they fail a saving throw and you're, you know, 5th level, 2d8 fire damage could be the differentiating factor of whether you guys get away or not. And then there are other spells that can key off of it, like pyrotechnics and things that need fire in place, control flames that need a fire to then be used. So, I don't know, I just really like it. This is my list, so I should have predicated that at the beginning. But, you know, you may have disagreements, and that's just how it is. But, yeah, I like Create Bonfire. No surprise that Mage Hand makes it on the list in the number 6 slot. You know, a lot of these utility cantrips, you really just can't go wrong. And if you have a group with multiple casters that have access to cantrips like this, I highly recommend, if you can get access to Prestidigitation, Mending, and Mage Hand, and Minor Illusion. Those are the kind of ones you want to have, as they have, I'm going to say, near unlimited uses, all based on the fact of how creative you can be as the player and how much your DM is willing to allow you to do. So Mage Hand is 30 feet, it lasts for a minute, it's non-concentration, and a floating spectral hand does anything that a hand can do, as long as it's within 30 feet. It's an action to control it, but you can have it open a door, unlock a chest, stow or retrieve an item from an open container, pour out the contents of a vial, and you can move it up to 30 feet each time you do that. It can't attack, it can't activate magic items, and it can't lift more than 10 pounds. But, you know, your buddy died over there, and you have a Mage Hand up, and your Mage Hand takes the potion over and pours the potion in their mouth. It's your action to do that, but you're able to get that extra distance that you wouldn't have been able to get. Like, you dash 60 feet, they're 90 feet away, your Mage Hand can go pour the potion to them to revive them. Or, again, the classic scenario I always think of is you're trapped in a jail cell and the keys are on a ring, and you send the Mage Hand to go grab the keys and bring them to you. But I've seen other clever uses, casting light on something and then having the Mage Hand hold it up to shine light, because the Mage Hand is not concentration and the light spell is. There's all manner of things you could do with it. So, I mean, even just from simple things like tapping somebody on the shoulder and just kind of being a jerk about it and then dismissing it so that they don't see the hand. I don't know. Again, probably the most common use is, I wonder if that chest is trapped. Let's back up 30 feet and I'll have the Mage Hand try and open it. Even more so if you're an arcane trickster and can do further manipulation with the Mage Hand. There you go. Number 5 is Booming Blade from the Sword Coast Adventures Guide set of cantrips. These ones kind of get overlooked, I feel like, more often than not, because they're not in a big book and they're kind of only 4 and they're squirreled away. But out of the 2 attacking cantrips, the other one being Green Flame Blade, I prefer Booming Blade, as it is 100% not reliant on the casting stat to use it. So how did this work, right? So it is an action to use, but you basically make an attack, and it specifically states, as part of the action used to cast this cantrip, you make a melee attack with a weapon against one creature within the spell's range. Spell's range is 5 feet, so it doesn't work with a glaive, so keep that in mind. But you make a melee attack with your sword or your hammer or whatever the case may be. So you make the melee attack using your strength or dexterity as you normally would. And the damage dealt is still your whatever the damage would be of your melee attack, plus your strength or dexterity modifier, not using your casting stat at all. On a hit, the target suffers the normal effects of the attack, like we just discussed, and it becomes sheathed in booming energy until the start of your next turn. If that target willingly moves before then, it immediately takes 1d8 thunder damage and the spell ends. So there's a ton of options for this. I see a lot of people take it as a Arcane Trickster Rogue or via the Magic Initiate feat, because a Rogue can use this and still sneak attack because it is still the effect of an attack. Same thing with Paladins using Smites, although they don't get the benefit of their secondary attack. But you're a Rogue, you move up, you stab this person, sneak attack, weapon damage, sneak attack damage, and now they're sheathed in this booming energy. You use your bonus action to disengage and move away. If this guy wants to come after you, he has to get hit with thunder damage. Now, what really keys it in to make it even better is as you level up, that sheathed in energy damage goes up by a d8 at each 5, 11, and 17. However, at 5, 11, and 17, the initial melee attack that you make does an additional 1d8 thunder damage. So at 5, a d8 on the hit, 2d8 on the damage, and on the energy, and then 2d8, 3d8, and 3d8, 4d8. So, and that's thunder damage that is, again, highly unresisted in as far as monsters go in the monster manual and in most situations. So you're usually good there. And it doesn't state that it makes a ton of noise like Thunder Wave or a Thunderous Smite does, where it makes a loud booming noise. It doesn't state that it does that, so your DM could rule that, and that's perfectly within their means to do so. But as written, the spell doesn't make any extra noise. And again, I'll just give you guys a heads up. My personal favorite thing to do is, as a Tempest Cleric, find a way to get yourself access to this spell. As a Tempest Cleric, anytime you deal thunder damage, you can choose to maximize the damage instead of rolling it. And then this has some potential to get very high damage amounts on a melee attack as a Cleric. And you only ever get one attack, so you don't lose out. Well, we had thunder on the last one, so it's time to bring the lightning on this one. So number 4 is Shocking Grasp. Shocking Grasp is a great spell, a very powerful ability, especially for any of the casters that typically get access to it, like sorcerers and wizards, as you typically don't want to be in melee range with a lot of folks, and this is your get-out-of-jail-free card, or at least an attempt to. This is one of the few melee touch spells in the game. But you make a melee spell attack against a creature. You have advantage if they're wearing metal armor, which is always nice. And if you hit, they take a d8 lightning damage, and they can't take reactions until the end, or till the start of their next turn. Meaning that you can do this, and then because they can't take reactions, they can't opportunity attack you, so you can move away for free. And that's typically the way that this is used. Is you're the wizard, somebody gets up in your grill, you hit them with Shocking Grasp, and then you beeline it out of there. I don't have to worry about getting hit. And again, as with every cantrip, this increases in damage all the way up to 48 at 17th level. And again, lightning is not too heavily resisted, although most demons and devils also have lightning resistance. So Booming Blade, less resisted. Shocking Grasp, I don't know. I feel like if you're a wizard or any kind of caster and you have the potential of getting engaged in melee combat, this is not a bad thing to have if you have access to it. Number 3 is Minor Illusion. This may be my favorite cantrip because this is, again, a spell that is wholly limited to what you can do with it and what your DM will allow you to do. So it lasts a minute, non-concentration, and has a range of 30 feet. And you create a sound or image of an object with a range within range that lasts for the duration. So you can create a sound, which can be ranged from a whisper to a scream. It can be your voice, someone else's voice, a lion's roar, a beating of drums, or some other noise. It continues unabated throughout the duration, or you can make discrete sounds at different times if you want. So if you wanted to just have a woman screaming for a minute straight, you could do that. Or you could just be like, scream, and then scream every 30 seconds. That's twice in a minute. Or you can create an image of an object, such as a chair, muddy footprints, a small chest. It can be no larger than a 5-foot cube. The image can't create sound, light, smell, or any other sensory effect, and physical interaction automatically reveals it to be an illusion because things can pass through it. If a creature uses its action, they can determine that it is an illusion. If they discern it's an illusion for what it is, the illusion becomes faint to the creature, meaning that it's not wholly transparent, but it's more like a translucent thing. You can see through it, but you still know that it's there. So why do I love this spell so much? I feel like a lot of people, at least this is normally how I mentally picture things. When I picture Minor Illusion, I always seem to picture it as like it is a spectral thing, like it's clearly an illusion, and that's not the case. So the way you can use this is, again, for all manner of things like making the sound of someone screaming, making a lion's roar, the beating of drums, any of that stuff, somebody else's voice speaking from 30 feet away. You could just make it a screaming woman for a minute, and that's a great way to, if you're trying to sneak in a somewhat relatively populated area, and you make a scream constantly for a minute 30 feet away that's sourceless, that's a great way to sneak because all people are going to hear is a screaming woman. They might not hear you break a lock or stumble if you're not very good at stealth. And then as far as an image of an object, there's no, what are you looking for? I'm looking for this thing. And you show them an image of what the object looks like. Oh, guys, hey, did you... Yeah, I looked at the map. The map looks like this, and make an image of the map. Or, again, something else like, oh, shit, we're going to get caught. I'm going to make a minor illusion of a crate, and I'm going to hide inside the illusion. I know it's an illusion, so I can see out of it. The enemy, if you're in a basement and you make an illusion of a crate, and it's full of crates, there's no reason for anybody to expect that that shouldn't be there to try to discern that it's an illusion. Now, if they bump into it and there's nothing there, they're going to realize that it's an illusion and that that's not the case. But you could put a crate and then hide behind it, or put a crate and hide theoretically inside the illusion. And as long as you don't poke anything out of the top of this 5-foot illusion, people would just walk right on by because it makes sense. If there's, like, if you carve a doorway with stone shape in a wall where there shouldn't be a wall, and then go inside there, and then minor illusion that that stone is still there, and people believe there's no reason for the stone to not be there, they should walk right by unabated, and then you can see out, because again, you know that it's an illusion. They can't see in, because there's no reason for them to suspect anything different. So, very powerful spell, but it is limited by how creative you can be, and how much your DM understands how the spell works, and is willing to let you do things. Number 2 is Eldritch Blast. I don't know. It's a great cantrip. It's probably the king of the damaging cantrips as far as the attacks go. I probably should have put it higher up on the list as far as being lower, because it is only accessible by one class in the standard, and that would be the Warlock, but it is sort of the whole Warlock's bread and butter. So 120 foot range, does force damage, which I don't think any creature in the entirety of any of the published D&D 5e works have resistance or immunity to force damage. So there's that. But it does one beam at level 1, and then as you level up, it does additional beams. Each beam has a separate attack. So unlike a firebolt where you can only attack one creature and deal extra damage, this potentially allows you to attack 4 separate creatures. Or you could attack the same creature 4 times, but each roll gets an attack roll, which has the potential to critically hit, but it also has the potential to critically miss or just regular miss. And then, it can be modified if you're a Warlock by things like, Agonizing Blast or Repelling Blast and things like that. So it has its benefits. If you ever have access to a class, whether it be through your magical secrets as a bard or minor or magic initiate or some other homebrew class that gets you Eldritch Blast, it's never a bad thing to have, but without the benefits of some of the Warlock invocations, it's not as powerful. Nothing is as disheartening as rolling a 1 on your Eldritch Blast that you just hit and dealing 1 point of damage, where potentially as a Warlock, you could be doing 6 points on that natural, or on that 1 roll, rather. But yeah, Eldritch Blast is great, and that's why it's made the number 2 slot. And number 1 should probably come as no shock to anybody who knows me and the way I play these games, is Guidance. It is limited in that it's only available to clerics and druids, but again, another thing worth picking up if you have access to it by other means, because it is concentration up to a minute, and the reason is it works on whatever the next ability check you make is. You add a d4 to that ability check. So you touch a willing creature and they get this benefit, so you don't just get to use it on yourself, you can use it on other people as well. It's a cantrip. You should be spamming it as often as you can. The only potential time not to is, remember, it is concentration, and you don't want to use that and accidentally drop a different concentration spell. But what are great ways to use it? Well, let's see. Well, I know we're going to try to sneak into this building. Go. Guidance. You get a d4, and then just guide each individual person as they go, and lastly, guide yourself, and then go. Give everybody that d4. Oh, we're going to try to pick that lock. Let me give the rogue, guidance on that. We're going to go try to convince somebody to do something. Let me cast guidance on you so you have that d4 to use on your persuasion or intimidation before we do something. It's not unreasonable, I don't think, at least in my games, if I have a player who's basically going to tell me, I'm just going to continually cast guidance on myself every minute forever until the situation doesn't allow it to do so, because technically that d4 applies to all ability checks. Initiative is a dexterity ability check, so if you had guidance up prior to rolling for initiative, you would add a d4 to your initiative roll as well. It is something that in games where I don't have access to it, I'm sad. In games where I do have access to it, I love it. It's just it's a lot easier to do all the things that I'm saying when you are the person who is casting the guidance. If you have to rely on somebody else, I feel like it really bogs down the game. If you're like, do I have guidance? And they're like, oh yeah, do I roll, do you roll? And the game just kind of drags on unnecessarily by means of that. So, yeah. Anyway, guys, that's my top 10 video for my top 10 cantrips for D&D 5e. Let me know what you guys think. Am I totally off? Again, the order is not necessarily particularly order of power, but it is sort of in order in what I would say is my increasing preference of the cantrips. So, let me know what you guys think. Leave me your list in the comments below. I'm curious to see how much they differ. Do you think there's a spell that I'm wholly missing on here as far as cantrips go? Be on the lookout, though, guys, for more of these type of videos, for other top 10 spell videos and monster videos and magic item videos and that kind of stuff, as those seem to be your guys' favorite. So, anyway, I'll see you next time.